Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my July 2025 reading vlog. Third of the way through the month already, so I have plenty of books that I will be discussing with you. So for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster book, I'm listening to the audiobook of Dune by Frank Herbert, which is a 1960s sci-fi story now considered a classic and now well known in pop culture due to the movies that are coming out starring Timothée Chalamet. I am about 74% of the way through the novel, and so far I am very surprised by how much I am alright with it. I'm actually enjoying it. I was assuming that it was going to be very action-based and very, world building with all the, sand planets and the worms and fighting the worms and all of that, but it turns out this first book is essentially just a political drama where a family travels to a new planet to settle with their, dukedom, and the Duke ends up getting killed by an enemy, and it's his son and his mother trying to navigate this new planet after this political coup takes place. So that is a really, really interesting idea, and there is a lot of world building and a lot of words that are hard to grasp, especially on the audiobook, but I am following it fairly well. I only watched Dune Part 1 and I found it boring and I don't remember anything that happened in it. I just remember Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya had little nose pieces in. That was really all I remember aside from all the sand. So even though I saw the movie and didn't really keep it in my brain, I'm glad that the novel is doing a very, very good job of keeping me interested and keeping me wanting to know how the story's going. So far, so good. I'm actually surprised by my reaction to the novel. Next, I am reading the novel I, Vampire by Micheal Romkey, which is an 80s Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles pastiche, and so far I do not think it is very good. Of course, when you are trying to kind of copy a popular vampire novelist, it just seems a little ingenuine when you're just trying to have all of the gravitas and all of the emotion that Anne Rice put into her work, but you don't really have any of that in reality, and so it just seems really, really dull and fake and pretentious, because while Anne Rice really did talk about the time periods of her various vampire characters, and yes, she did put a few cameos from historical figures, they weren't characters mentioned by name as main characters. Mozart's in this book, Rasputin is in this book. It just seems very cheap, This is a very cheap trope. I'm the coolest vampire in the world and Mozart's my best friend. It's just reading like that. And also, the main character, he became a vampire a couple of years ago as of the time period of the novel. To have all of that ability and cognitive thinking and style of writing, you need to have been hundreds of years old in order to have that sort of hindsight, like the Vampire Chronicles characters. They're all telling their stories after hundreds of years. Even the book where Lestat was only a vampire for about a decade, he was meeting people who were hundreds of years old, and they were telling their stories. So having this guy think he's so smart and so, insightful when he's been a vampire for 2 years, and also all he does is sleep with women and do cocaine, it's boring. It is such a boring novel and I do not like it, so I am almost done with that one, and I am glad to have been done it. I wanted to give it a chance because it was an Anne Rice trendy book. I wanted to see if there was some merit in it, but no, there was not. I have also caught up currently on a few Nightwing issues. I read, I believe, 97, 98, and 99. It then went into Robin Year 1, which I've already read, and then I believe it was 107 to 117. It was just a bunch of random issues continuing the story of Nightwing, and it is the Devin Grayson run. So I read all of that, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was the mobbed up arc, and then the Renegade arc, and I really enjoyed them because, of course, I love the character of Slade. And my current read is called Ithaca by Patrick Dillon, which is a retelling of the Odyssey through Odysseus' son Telemachus' point of view. It is a very short novel, and it seems to be in line with the trends of the Greek myth retelling. It is not bringing anything new to the table thus far, but I think that is a wonderful perspective to look on, because Telemachus was just a youth, while his mom is getting bombarded by a bunch of suitors because they all want to marry her because they all think Odysseus is dead after the Trojan War. So Telemachus is trapped in becoming a boy, becoming a man, like that whole thing, trying to protect his mother while trying to learn about his father. So that is a very interesting perspective to have a novel based on, but so far it is just really sticking to the original poem and has not brought anything exciting to me. The writing is pretty standard, and I am about 50 to 60 pages through that. So we will see if that changes and surprises me in any way. So that is everything that I have read and I am currently reading thus far, and we shall see what I do with the rest of the month. So stay tuned. Okay, here we finally are at the July 2025 reading vlog wrap-up. So for this month, I only read 5 books. So for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster, I listened to the mammoth audiobook of Dune by Frank Herbert, and I ended up giving that book 3 stars. I thought it was a pretty interesting science fiction novel that had a lot of good character work and intrigue. I just assumed it was going to be a lot of action, but I was pleasantly surprised by how much I was enjoying that novel. However, I don't think I will continue the series. I don't really think science fiction is for me, but I think that it was a very interesting premise that had a lot of very interesting world building for its characters, especially the female characters. Next, I read I, Vampire by Micheal Romkey, and I ended up giving that one like 1.5 to 2 stars. It was written around the time of the Anne Rice Vampire Chronicles novels, and you can tell he was trying really, really hard to capture that same sort of writing style, that same sort of grandness, that same sort of epicness, and that same sort of just wonderful like tribute to art and history. However, the way that the characters are set up and the events of the novel, they just do not meet up with that sort of expectation. One of my biggest criticisms is that there is an attempt to make this great historical epic with all the characters, but the main vampire was only made very, very recently at the time the novel is set, so he can't have any hindsight into his long and vast life because he's only been human age, basically. So there's just no good sense of hindsight and intelligence and emotional intelligence to the events of your life because you are still your human age and you don't have enough time to reflect back on your life. So he isn't capable of thinking that retroactively or that grandly because he hasn't lived multiple lifetimes. Plus, I thought the characters fell very, very flat, and I thought the inclusion of historical characters as main characters did not intrigue me at all. Like, the characters of Mozart and Rasputin did nothing to me to add to the novel, so that was not a very good vampire novel that I read this month. I then read about 13 issues of the Devin Grayson Nightwing run, those being Mobbed Up and the Renegade arc, and I thought that they were very, very good, and they all got about 3 stars each issue. I really, really enjoyed that storyline, and I wish it had been more properly developed. I understand there was editorial issues going on during the events of the Nightwing run, so I know that they're not going to improve the more I go on. I'm not looking forward to the next batch that I'm going to read. However, I thought these ones were just fine. The next book I read was Ithaca by Patrick Dillon, which is a Greek myth retelling set in Ithaca, which is the island Odysseus is from, and the point of view is from his son Telemachus. This is essentially a retelling of the poem The Odyssey by Homer, and it was a story about Telemachus trying to learn about his father in the midst of the drama where all of these suitors are coming to try and take their place as head of the house and marry his mother Penelope, because Odysseus has not returned home after the Trojan War. Everyone thinks he's dead, so they are trying to take over his place. And this story, while having a really good premise and a very interesting point of view character, it ended up not adding any nuance to the character. It did not add anything new to the story. It was basically just reading the point of view books of the Odyssey that are set with Telemachus, reading them again in language that is more modern, that is not just poetry. And I think that's an okay thing to do for a lot of these stories. Some people do not want to read the poetry. I understand. Like, they do this with Shakespeare as well. They take it out of the play context, out of the iambic pentameter, and they do retellings. It's totally fine. But for me, who has read the Odyssey multiple times for school, I wanted something new and fresh involved within the story, and there was nothing there for me, unfortunately. So if you are interested in Greek myth but not interested in reading poetry, sure, I would recommend Ithaca by Patrick Dillon, but just for me, who wants something more out of these retellings, something interesting, it just did not meet the mark for me, so this book only got 2 stars from me. And finally, I ended my month reading The Drowning Tree by Carol Goodman. Carol Goodman is an author that I have read previously. She published an excellent dark academia or academic thriller story called The Lake of Dead Languages, considered one of my favorite books. It's sitting on my shelf right now. And I found another one of her books at the thrift store a couple of months ago, and so I decided to try it out. Now, this book follows a main character who is a glass maker, a glass artist. She lives in the glass making studio, and she has a friend who was studying art history and studying a bunch of paintings and sculptures and diary entries from the people who founded their college that they went to. This is very convoluted. And then the main character also has a daughter who likes kayaking, despite the fact that when her daughter was a baby, her daughter, and her ex-husband were almost murdered by the husband because he went crazy. So he's currently at a mental hospital. Meanwhile, the best friend dies in a kayak and they have to figure out who did it. It is a very convoluted story. Unfortunately, I was disappointed with this story as well. A lot of the reviews of this story were that it is too jumbled with references, both to glassmaking, glass art, and painting references, and references to Greek myth. While I normally enjoy references to Greek myth, a lot of these ones were a little bit on the nose. I think the author just got a little bit too excited, so I'm not going to get mad at her for getting a bit too excited and adding a bunch of references to things, but I just think this story was a bit too jumbled and a little bit too boring. It wasn't really character focused, it was more focused on the themes of art, of Greek myth, and of hereditary mental illness. This book was written in 2003, so I'm not gonna gripe on it too hard about that. It was a very new idea, new concepts for mental health, totally fine. But I just did not enjoy this novel very much, so it got a 2. So that's it. That was my sad, disappointing little reading month. I really, really hope that next month I read something that I enjoy a little bit better. Because quite frankly, if Dune was my favorite book, that's a little weird. That's a little sad for me. I wish I had found a new favorite this month. But I had more stuff going on this month. My favorite thing I did this month was I went and saw the new James Gunn Superman movie, and I really, really loved it. And I got that really fun merchandise for the movie. I got the popcorn bucket and a stuffed animal and the drink cup. And I was really, really excited about that. So instead of having a good reading month, I was a bit more distracted in that capacity. Plus, there is all of that news coming out about the new season of The Vampire Lestat, so that's been keeping me all excited and distracted. So good things are to come. Unfortunately, my reading was just a little bit disappointing this month. So hopefully stay tuned for next month, where hopefully I read something a bit more exciting. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.